Hines is proud to partner the Urbanist on Monocle Radio. Hines is a leading global real estate investment manager. Hines owns and operates $93 billion of assets across property types and on behalf of a diverse group of institutional and private wealth clients. Hines' ambition? Well, in the words of its chairman and CEO, Jeffrey Hines, to be the best real estate investor, manager and partner in the world. Find out how Hines is making that dream a reality. Head to hines.com now. Hines, a leader in real estate investing and management since 1957. Canada will have at least one new Prime Minister in 2025. Unusually, however, Canada's next PM, like Trudeau before them, won't be moving into the official prime ministerial residence. Losing the vibrancy of its early years, no longer fit for purpose, and in dire need of replacement, you could say that the property echoes many recent observations made about the outgoing Canadian Premier himself. You're listening to Tall Stories, a Monocle production brought to you by the team behind The Urbanist. I'm Andrew Tuck. In this episode, Tomos Lewis explains the cost of a potential spring clean of this house at 24 Sussex Drive.
Every morning I've woken up as Prime Minister. I've been inspired by the resilience, the generosity.
When Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced his resignation on the 6th of January, the backdrop to his address to the nation was, for Canadians across the country, a familiar one. So I thought it might be fun for us to do this again, Trudeau said, wryly, before beginning his speech, pages of which had fluttered off into the crisp winter wind moments before he'd arrived in public view. He turned his head back briefly as he said so, glancing at the red brick facade of Rideau Cottage behind him. This 22-room stately home in Ottawa was built between 1866 and 1867 on the grounds of Rideau Hall, which is where Canada's Governor-General lives. And this cottage is where Prime Minister Trudeau and his family has lived since he was first elected Prime Minister back in 2015. The house became a regular presence in the popular consciousness in Canada each morning during the first months of the COVID-19 pandemic, when Trudeau would step outside, take his place behind the lectern, and update Canadians on the country's progress in combating the outbreak.
We need you to continue to stay home.
But while Rideau Cottage is officially where the outgoing Prime Minister has lived during his near decade in office, it's not the official residence of Canada's Prime Ministers. That edifice, Ottawa's 24 Sussex Drive, is a facade that's been largely out of public view since 2015, despite it having served as the official home of leaders of Canada's government since 1951. That's because the large limestone-clad mansion has been allowed to fall into disrepair over many years, and was deemed a couple of years ago uninhabitable by Canada's National Audit Office, which went on in 2022 to declare that the residence as a place to live should be closed until further notice. Asbestos insulation, no central heating or air conditioning, ageing windows that allowed the chilly winter air to seep inside, even the grim discovery of the carcasses of dead rodents in the walls, were all noted as being among the mansion's ailments, with no sign of a salve in sight. "24 Sussex Drive was built between 1866 and 1868 and was initially named Gorffwysfa, which is the Welsh language word for a place to rest. Leaders including Winston Churchill and John F. Kennedy have crossed its threshold over the decades. So how exactly did it come to be that a G7 leader of one of the world's richest economies doesn't have an official residence in which to live or to call home while they're in office? A certain amount of public pearl-clutching at the appearance of Canada's Prime Ministers spending money on themselves is a factor, but that misses the role a prime ministerial residence plays in the life of a nation. And indeed the sense of national self buildings like these can project to other leaders and dignitaries who pay a visit from abroad. Think of the Élysée Palace in Paris, the White House in Washington, or number 10 Downing Street in London. It's an oddity, to say the least, that Canada's leaders don't have a similarly prestigious address to call home during their time in office. One Canadian magazine even went so far as describing the sorry state of 24 Sussex Drive as a national disgrace. Several solutions have been suggested over the years. Renovate 24 Sussex Drive in its entirety at a cost of some 42 million Canadian dollars, which is around 28 million euros. Transfer the official residence status to Rideau Cottage itself, or start from scratch by building a brand new residence with the intention of showcasing Canadian architecture and design. A decision on the future of 24 Sussex Drive seems to have been pushed down the road again, but it should be made soon. Canada's likely to get one, if not two, new Prime Ministers this year. Leaders who will be in the unusual position of not immediately knowing where precisely they'll call home once they assume the top job in the land.
Tall Stories is a Monocle production from the team behind The Urbanist. This episode was written by Tomos Lewis and produced and edited by David Stephens. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast to receive new episodes every week. I'm Andrew Tuck. Goodbye, and thank you for listening, City Lovers.